Shalom and welcome to Mitzvah Torah. This year is entitled Parsha korach, the appeal of korach. The tragic reality is that he won over many people. According to Ramban, when it says, when Hashem told Moshe to separate from the people, the Eidah, so Rabbi Hananel says Eidah just means korach and his group. Ramban says actually it means the whole Eidah, Klal Yisrael. What did all Klal Yisrael do? That they were chayav mitah. Ramban says they all had Hirurim. They had thoughts, maybe korach is right and Moshe is wrong. How could korach possibly appeal to Klal Yisrael, to many of the leaders of Klal Yisrael? How could it be? So it's one thing that he's jealous, he's enraged, and he goes through a very irrational phase and justifies himself. But the average person, what did they hear from korach? So it could be that korach, as we said, he himself thought he was motivated l'shem shamayim. He had to make an appeal to the people. What was the appeal? That Moshe's interpretation of Judaism is wrong, and that he's getting too fixed on the details. And it's possible that he told them two things. A, it is unnecessary, Moshe's fixation on the details of the mitzvot, and B, it is harmful, it is negative. So, for example, mezuzah, you go into the room, you have all these beautiful svarim, you think of Hashem, why do you need a mezuzah? Tzitzis, you think you have a blue garment, and you think of the shamayim, or whatever the blue represents, so the tzitzis, the blue tzitzis are unnecessary. So there's two major problems, of course. Anyone thinks for a moment, two major problems is that you don't know the reason for each mitzvah. And number two, even if you know the reason, there's something we call low plug, that you don't differentiate between this case and that case. You don't go ahead and say, well, right now the reason is achieved through the svarim. Right now the reason is achieved through the blue garment. You start with that, you end up with no system. But we've seen that happen. We've seen with conservative Judaism 100 years ago, where they started saying low plug, Salam Shechta, Minhag America, you don't need to have a machitz in the shul, you don't need this, you don't need that, and more or less he was still concerned with halacha in general, but a lot of the details weren't necessary, and 100 years later the movement is totally different when Salam Shechta started. So history is quite clear. You don't have a hold on the details, it's going to fall apart. But at that moment they didn't have history in front of their eyes, and they're thinking, you know what, maybe we don't need to have this fixation on details, maybe it's even harmful. You end up focusing so much on the tree and not on the forest. And you fix it in this detail, in this amount, in this shear, and the kazayit, and the raviyit, and the exact height of the mezuzah, and the angle of the mezuzah, and exactly which parashas. You get so focused on all these details, you just miss the bigger picture. Anyone that knows Torah and mitzvahs understands that the longevity of the Torah and mitzvahs, the success of the Torah and mitzvahs, and the whole life of Torah and mitzvahs is, of course, with the details, halachic details. That's what all of Shas is about. But a person at the beginning of the Yadus 3,300 years ago could say, you know what, let's keep the basic ideas, the contents of each mitzvah, and the details should not take over. The fact is, the Orthodox Jew also agrees that the details cannot take over as the only part of the mitzvah. You need to see the bigger picture well. You need to have the goals of the mitzvahs in together with the details. But we maintain you need both. You need the details and you need the goals of perfection, the shleimuta adam. You need both. But korach's appeal to the generation and to the leaders, tragically, many of the people, was that you need the basic ideas of Yadus, the concepts of each mitzvah, and don't get lost and focused on the details. And that's won over the people. It's a tragic, tragic argument, which won over many, many people. And of course, Hashem demonstrated miraculously that the approach is just warped and cannot make it that way. So maybe a little bit of an insight into korach and his approach and how it won over the people. Shalom.